Gazelles. Means that our flying display was getting underway very, very quickly. In Afghanistan up to 2014. But here we are, running in to start the display at Shuttleworth Collections Fly Navy Air Show 2022, the 4 Westland Gazelles of the Gazelle Squadron display team. So much to promote and further the preservation of the memory of the flying of the past, and indeed to inspire interest in all the flying of the present. And the Gazelles cross over under the leadership by the President of so, what was the route you then took onwards to the market? What were the other times you do in your active service? So a very, very full to our right, running in the Hawker Sea Hurricane 1B, the Supermarine Spitfire 5C, and the Supermarine Seafire 17. Still with us, the President of Navy. After its naval service struck off charge in 1955, it languished on a fire dump for a good few years before it was rescued for renovation. The Spitfire was adapted for fleet air arm due to shortages of more bespoke naval fighters.
graces the skies and delights every time there's an air show here at the Shuttleworth Collection.
The first Sea Hurricane 1A, which were converted XRAF Hurricanes, began equipping 880 Squadron in February 1941. In total,
and I'd venture to suggest a considerably less tense approach at touchdown for our pilot today compared to the sort of landings that would have taken place often in bad weather on a pitching and rolling.
Flying the Seafire 17 of Navy Wings. And there's Chris Lysander into land, the Sea Hurricane. All three of those aircraft, as we mentioned, will be in the form of the Avro 19 Anson.
Avro 19. So navigators, engineers, radio operators, some were even fitted with gun turrets. So I guess you could say that it was the first aircraft deployed in RAF service. The Shuttleworth Collection there was a bit of a film start for a while, the building of the bridge for the Sky film planned at Douglas Prada, although it did suffer an engine failure early on in the film for what was going to be Operation Banquet, although that particular operation was dropped. So the Magister actually never saw service in the end as an active wartime aircraft and continued in the training role.
Indian car and foundry built Harvard Port.
Harvard though is when you line up on the wrong way to lock the tail wheel. Because if you don't, when you apply power, you get a rather embarrassing
As it climbs away, we'll be telling you more about that later. In comes the Seaking HC4, the Commando variant of the similarly versatile Seaking, which was first selected by the Royal Navy in 1966 to replace the Wessex Arrival.
The Commando variant differing from the Seeking anti-submarine search and rescue helicopter in that it had fixed undercarriage, no flotation pods, and the bulkhead at the rear of the cabin was reflapped the ankle space so for equipment.
Later the ASAC, Airborne Search and Control version, and they were the last Seakings in Royal Navy service, not retired until 2018, 49 years of service.
The Seeking in that guise was of course picket duties, which following the Falklands War Wessex could be armed with depth charges and torpedoes as required.
Anti-submarine helicopter for the Royal Navy to be developed as such from the outset, the Westland Whirlwind having
was based on, which was quite
significant numbers during the Falklands campaign 40 years ago, deploying special forces, members of both the SAS, the Special Air Service, and the SBS, the Special Boat Service.
SG38 Shuttleworth. Cape race fleet. Could reach about 70 knots in a shallow dive. Would stall somewhere under 30 knots. Actually proved to be an excellent training platform. Powered by Bristol Mercury air-cooled that were coming into service.
They had nonetheless been deployed quite widely aboard carriers. Glorious went off to the Eastern Mediterranean in August 1935 after Mussolini's Italy invaded Abyssinia.
Typical armaments were two fixed forward-firing 303 machine guns.
Continued using Wasps until the year 2000.
Yes, it was the decommissioning of the last Type 12 Wasps that saw the end of the Wasp frontline service with the Royal Navy.
The one that's owned by John is painted in the marquee for Wasps frigates. They were involved in the Civil War between South Africa and Angola. One of them vessel recovered South African Defence Force intelligence equipment from inside Angola. Quite a daring mission, that. Bombing raid in history. This was the raid against the German Zeppelin airship works in Friedrichshafen. They were
driven by that Larone air-cooled 110 horsepower rotary engine, or a Clerget 100 horsepower unit up front. There was also an interesting one-off project involving the 504, and that was a 3-seat cabin version with a 100 horsepower Gnome engine up front. That was designated the 504M.
Now call a fighter, looked like a smaller version of the existing 1.5 strutter.
Yes, Sopwith developed a bit of a reputation for developing a flight.
And really the most famous occurred on the 2nd of August 1917 when Squadron Commander Edwin Dunning used a pup to make the first ever landing by an aircraft on a moving ship, which was HMS Furious, underway in Scapa Flow. Tragedy struck 5 days later, however, when the Pup went over the side and Dunning lost his life. But nonetheless, Pups operated from several carriers during wartime, as well as cruisers with platforms mounted on them for the purpose. And one Pup managed to shoot down a Zeppelin having taken off from the cruiser HMS Yarmouth.
Harry Hawker was Sopwith's chief pilot when the...
Until the triplane's gun jammed. No wonder production orders were rapidly received. And that will be followed by the Goodyear FG1D Corsair.
And here she comes now, the consolidated PBY Catalina. Named after the island of craft turned over on a takeoff run. This particular example in the livery of Miss Pickup, a search and rescue version. Which was lost in the North Sea on a sortie when an engine failure resulted in the plane having to put down and then drifted for a number of hours before being shot up by an ME-262 German bomber, German fighter rather.
When the ex-PBY-1 patrol bomber prototype first appeared, it achieved a new distance record on its maiden flight of in excess of 3,400 miles. This was a very innovative design in some ways, because obviously to achieve that sort of extensive range, it had to incorporate a great amount of fuel tankage, but it also had to be as streamlined an airframe as possible. So Consolidated gave it a so-called wet wing, which means the wing incorporates fuel tankage, which caused a considerable weight saving over having tanks elsewhere. Very clean lines, as you can see, giving it low drag, and they made the wingtip floats, as we see demonstrated here, retractable.
The Catalina's top secret documents were ferried on this commercial service operated by Qantas. Interestingly, China Airlines started their operations with 2 Catalinas that were provided for them. There we see with the wheels down configuration, the aircraft being operated.
Fastest American single-seat fighter of its day, able to exceed 400 miles an hour. But it was also an aeroplane that suffered from various teething troubles, especially in terms of its suitability for
And there were modifications to the engine cowl flaps as well to prevent oil spraying over the windshield. All of these made carrier landings much more practical.
And underneath we get the Sea Hurricane, the Spitfire 5 and the Seafire 17 back into the air for their part in the finale to our main show today. In the European theatre, meanwhile, Corsairs were hardly inactive. Fleet Air Arm examples attacked the German battleship Tirpitz during Operation Tungsten in 1944.
This somewhat dumpy appearance belying its tremendous rate of climb of around about 4,500 feet a minute and its top speed just shy of 400 knots. Excellent power to rate ratio on the Bearcat. The first US Navy aircraft to be fitted with a bubble canopy. Had excellent wide track undercarriage for deck operations. And the wings could be folded for storage.
As I say, followed by the Tiger, the Reliant and the Harvard. Flight line ready to